Can I tell you how much of a surreal experience this is? It just is. And 13 years ago, I was the chairman of the SHRM Board of Directors. Yeah, I was 12, I know, that's right. But 13 years ago, I was the chairman, and I welcomed 12,000 people to San Diego for our annual conference. Fast forward, today, I have the privilege, and indeed the honor, to welcome over 20,000 people to SHRM 18 right here in Chicago. This is the largest HR event on the planet. How you like that? Not the world, but the planet. Life doesn't get any better than this. I'd like to again thank the SHRM Board of Directors, my governing bosses, and I'd also like to thank each of you and the nearly 300,000 members that we have around the globe, my everyday, my other bosses, for trusting and entrusting the leadership of this amazing organization to me. I'm truly humbled, and I will do all that I can to make you proud. This is the right time for HR. There has literally never been a better moment to be in the people business. And I know many of you remember the times when we were dying to be recognized. You remember we wanted that seat at the table, and we were busy trying to prove our value to business, hoping that our colleagues in finance and marketing and technology would see us as their contemporaries. And while, yes, there were a few standout CEOs like GE's Jack Welch, who spoke about the virtues of HR, the overwhelming majority of business leaders did not know what we did and/or didn't believe that it was valuable to them. After all, anyone can do HR, right? Well, the good news is those days are long gone. You can't find a CEO who is not talking, and I mean talking a lot, about HR and people. When I have the opportunity to talk to organizations leaders, business leaders, these days in just about every industry, they tell me they finally get it. People matter. And although they've been saying this for a long time, there's something palpably different right now. It's more than just a feel-good message that you have to tell your employees every day when you stand in the front of them, and that you have to say to your shareholders and your stakeholders and your stockholders, et cetera. They really believe it now. They understand that this is critical. I am pleased to say that we have arrived at a wonderful place in time where CEOs, executive directors, government leaders, and anyone who calls the shots these days knows and values good HR. I was talking with the CEO of a global digital agency recently in my office, and in the middle of our meeting, true story, in the middle of our meeting, he blurted out, "I always start my morning by talking to my CHRO because we are in the people business." I was in shock. That's literally what he said. It wasn't that he was just at SHRM. He literally was saying, he didn't say the marketing people, he didn't say his advertising people, he didn't say his creative people, he said, but people and HR. And I literally smiled from ear to ear because it was all that I could do to shout, finally, they get it. And recently I had another CEO tell me, "Johnny," and this was really a moment for me because I came out of industry before coming here, and it said, "I don't have any problem accessing financial capital to sustain and grow my business." He said, "My big challenge is accessing the right human capital. The human capital is necessary and critical for me to deploy the readily available financial resources." He said, "There is no shortage of money." That was an amazing statement, unsolicited from a CEO. My SHRM colleagues, this really is a perfect time for human resources. It's all about human resources. But I don't have to tell you, there's a downside to all of this attention. Rarely does a week go by where some media outlet doesn't write a story or broadcast an interview blaming HR for all things wrong in the workplace. You know that. From the New York Times to 2020, people are blaming us for everything. And then the headlines say, "Where was HR?" You all know, where was HR? I can tell you, as situations like the Me Too movement play out, it's often the first question that pops up when a reporter calls me. And while, yes, it stings a little, because actually we never went away, I actually see this as a positive. It's a positive. I'm reminded of when I'd run home as a little boy to my mother, and I'd say people were talking about me at school. And by the way, my mama's here today. And she'd say, baby, don't worry about them talking about you. Worry when they stop talking about you. And it's just sometimes mama has to just break it down and put everything in perspective for you, right? Well, that's what we should be thinking about right now as HR. The fact of the matter is, there was a time in the not so distant past when no one was asking about HR. There were no headlines, where was HR? Because the prevailing thought of the day was that we were necessary, but not mission critical. Nowadays, people are not asking where was legal. They're not asking where was risk management. They're asking where is HR? And they are turning to HR and organizations like SHRM for answers and solutions. It's really an endorsement of our relevance and our impact. Now, on a deeper level, organizations finally understand that people issues that erupt in the workplace, Me Too, pay disparity, discrimination on the basis of ethnicity, race, age, that ultimately that's all about culture. And culture, inclusion, and talent are at the very essence of what we do as HR professionals. And news alert, Congress you simply can't write enough laws to prevent workplace harassment and discrimination. Because if they could have magically solved all of these problems with laws, then we wouldn't have the headlines of the day. Because after all, anti-harassment and discrimination laws have been on the books for over half a century. So the next time that someone asks, where was HR? The answer, my friends, is unequivocally, HR is here, and this is what we do. Let us get to work. Finally, thank you. Finally, we're at this special moment where I know that HR can write our own future because of the auspicious moment that we are experiencing right now. This is a moment for people, which means it's a moment for HR. The world is entering what some have called the fourth industrial revolution. But this one it's not going to be about the future of machines, notwithstanding what you read in the press. It's about the future of human beings' relationship to machines. It's about getting work done through the merger of biological intelligence and artificial intelligence, taking full advantage of technology while unleashing the potential of all that makes us human, uniquely human. You see, we're in the middle of a demographic and economic perfect storm. I want you to think about this. The global economy is hot right now. America's GDP is tracking toward 4% for the second quarter. U.S. unemployment rates are at a 45-year low. At 3.8%, everybody who wants to work and is capable of working can. There's a joke that we used to have in the industry that said 4% of Americans don't want to work. So when you're at 3.8%, you're begging people to work. You're paying them to come to work and do nothing potentially. We now have more jobs than people to do them. And here's another part, a sort of reality that you may not think about. Americans began having fewer children in the year 2000, which means our labor problems are only going to get worse. And last year, U.S. birth rates continued to fall, which does not make for a pretty picture anytime soon. It means this war for talent is going to be a sustained and a very long war. Add to all of this that our government, for decades, has been unable to come up with smart and sensible immigration policy. All of this begs the question, who is going to provide the skills our nation needs now and in the future? And by the way, this is just not a U.S. issue. It's easy to think that it is. Other nations are having different types of people issues and HR challenges. They've got to skill up. They've got to ensure that there are jobs for their booming youthful populations. Increasingly, these countries are seeing their destinies tied to demography and guess what? People issues. And the reality is this, Our organizations need to attract the best people wherever they are. They need to skill up those workers, whomever they are, and they need to be ready for the next industrial revolution whenever it shows up. All of us in this room and everyone who loves HR, we're going to have to elevate this profession. We're going to have to innovate work in ways that no one has thought of yet. We're going to have to achieve expectations that no one has placed on us yet. We're going to have to dial up our goals from stretch to audacious. Speaking of audacious, just a few weeks ago, I was flying to visit our SHRM India offices, and I wasn't feeling well, but I was reading this book. You know, you're going to plane for 24 hours. What else does one do, right? And I read this book by best-selling author Mark Batterson. It's called Chasing the Lion. Very appropriate because today's Sunday. Mama, you'd be happy. Chasing the Lion is based around a single verse in the Bible about a man named Benaiah. Benaiah chased a lion into a pit, then jumped into that pit afterwards to slay it. Now, I don't know about any of you all, but it is not my instinct to, one, chase a lion at all, and I'm surely not going to go into his pit. But Benaiah ignored every instinct telling him to flee, and he did the most counterintuitive thing a human being could do. He went after the thing that should have scared him the most. Toward the end of the first chapter, the author made a statement that really stuck with me. He said, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. If your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. And I literally spent the rest of my trip thinking about whether my dream for our profession scared me, whether it was in fact too small. I thought, what's our lion in HR? What is it that this profession, the HR profession, should be dreaming of? And so, while over the past 6 months I've been listening and learning and going around and talking with people literally all over the globe, I thought, let me get it from people who matter. Let me talk to SHRM members. Let me talk with SHRM staff. Let's talk to our stakeholders and business leaders. And I've concluded one thing after all of those conversations, and that is our profession is hungry for transformational ideas and leadership. And it is up to us to compose a vision of the future, a dream that we can achieve. So to do this, I think there are just 3 things we need to accomplish. 1, we must dream about building inclusive workplace cultures. We've got to do it because the world has changed so much. On the horizon, I see a profession that has mastered culture, inclusion, and diversity in our workplaces. We will decide what our culture is, who we hire for it, and how we live it. We will expand our notions of diversity beyond race and gender and make sure that our talent strategies are untethered from bias. We will include in our cultures older workers, people with disabilities, veterans, people with criminal histories, and others who made mistakes and who just deserve a second chance. And we're also going to make our workplaces inclusive to anyone and everyone who can bring the skills we need and the culture that we aspire to. We have to think, for example, quite seriously about whether letters after a person's name or a specific degree from a specific fancy school is necessary and essential to perform a particular job. That's the dream. Secondly, we've got to lead workforce readiness. On the horizon, I see a profession that has innovated talent acquisition and skilled up our nation's workforces. We will focus on those people who aren't quite ready, who don't have the skills that we need right yet, but we can boost them up. We will explore educational partnerships, apprenticeships, internships, and any number of innovative programs to fill our talent pipelines. We will provide younger people with learning and working experiences, and we will help provide the long-term unemployed and older workers. We'll help them rebuild their careers. No longer will we as a profession just wait for a candidate to show up at our door so that we can deem them unqualified. We can't afford it. Our companies can't afford it. We will not leave to chance the readiness of a workforce or our organization's workforces, the nations and the society that we serve. Lastly, we must elevate this profession. If I don't achieve anything else as your CEO, it will be to help elevate our profession. All right. Our profession, this profession, deserves to attract the best and brightest students, one that improves people's lives exponentially. That is HR. It's one that has earned the trust and esteem of everyone we serve. Again, the stage is set for us to tackle this lion of a people problem. It's set for us. And we're going to do it by building inclusive workplace cultures. We're going to lead workforce readiness, and we're going to elevate this profession. Now, I don't know if many of you know, but today is SHRM's, this year, our 70th birthday. We are 70 years old, started in 1948. Happy birthday to SHRM. And while we can all look back and smile with pride about how far we've come, we must look forward and make a conscious decision to elevate HR to a higher plane. We, all of us in this room, will be the ones to transform and lift up our profession. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. It's ours to lose or win. Yeah, I call it this. It's a joke, but it's only us can save us. We're the people who are going to transform HR. Other people aren't going to do it. I know it's grammatically correct. I can feel some of the professors out there. I know, but only us can save us. Dr. Wright. We must care deeply about how we present ourselves in our work and in the world, our appearance and in our actions. We must believe in ourselves so that others will have no choice but to believe in us as well. We will fight for laws and policies that, while they may not be popular, they will set the table for the workplace cultures we want to build, and that will improve our organizations and our people. We must be the examples we want to see in our workplaces. And most importantly, we must keep our knowledge and competencies current and relevant to the practice of 21st century HR, including what? Certification. I wanted each of you to know, if you're not certified, if we want to elevate this profession, each and every one of us need to get certified. And if you've been certified, you need to recertify because it's changing constantly. In short, we must set audacious goals for ourselves and our organizations, and we must chase them courageously. And we must be ready to take some major risk. Now, does that dream scare you? And if so, good. It's supposed to do, because if it doesn't, it's too small and it ain't big enough for what we're going to do for the next several years. Now, I'm going to scare you just a little bit more. We have to jump into this pit and chase after that lion because our very existence as a profession depends on it. I want you to listen to me. Our very existence as a profession depends on it. Why? Because if we don't do this right, if we don't chase this lion, business leaders have told us and are showing us that they will find someone else to do this work. See, here's the problem. We hear people say HR is important. And what we're not hearing is that what they're saying is the HR function is important. They can't do without that. The question is whether or not they believe that our profession, those of us in this room, are the right people to manage and deliver that function. It's already happening. There are companies right now where employee relations and labor relations reports to the legal department, where compensation and benefits reports to the finance department, where training and development reports to operations, and even talent acquisition and recruitment reports to a chief talent officer who doesn't report to the head of HR. I know. You come to Chicago to be inspired, and you're like, Johnny, don't end on a damn bad note. You know they told me that, right? But we need more than inspiration. We need aspiration. I want you to take the inspiration you're going to get over the next several days and aspire to do and be greater in our workplaces, to really transform what it means to do and be HR. You see, inspiration is what sends us into the lion's pit. Aspiration gets us out alive. We aren't going to leave our dreams here. Oh, you like that? How about it? Let me try that again. That was better than I thought. We aren't going to leave our dreams here at the door of McCormick Place or at O'Hare or Midway Airport. We need to go back to our offices and we've got to live them. So I have a final little workplace assignment, homework assignment that I'd like each of you to take up over the next 3 days. First of all, remember that inspiration wall that I mentioned outside here? I want each of you to visit that wall just to the right and tell us, what dreams are you going to chase? And then as you catch and conquer them, I want you to write me. I want you to tell me about how you chased your lion in a professional context. I want you to tell me about that risk that you took that mattered to your employees. What dream, what big dream did you put in place at work? Tell me about where you chased something down that scared you in the professional context. And I can tell you now, you won't be alone. Your professional society, SHRM, will be chasing some of our own lions too. And our chase will require you. We are on this journey together, SHRM members, and I'm so humbled to come along as your CEO. So let's dream big and let's write the future of HR in big letters. Let's transform the world of HR together forward. God bless you all. God bless this profession, and thank you. Thank you so much.